Hello, and I'm Alex Bowers from LearnToProgram.tv. In this video, I'll be teaching you the very basics of variables within Python. So the first thing we need to do is create a new page, a new file rather, and we're just going to call this one variables.py. Once we've done that, then all we're going to do is just run some very simple code. I'll explain what this code means in later videos. This is just to show you how you set up a variable. So a variable is defined by a name, which you can call whatever you want, but it does follow certain rules. So the name, I can just type it like this, and that will be a variable called name. However, and it could have name underscore 1 and name underscore Alex, name Alex. But it cannot start with a number, and it cannot have certain symbols such as stars and slashes within it, because they mean something different within Python. So as a general rule, you either have two different ways of writing your variables, and these are two different conventions. The first one's called camel casing, which is where you write it as such, where each new word starts with a new capital, and that makes it so you can sort of read what it is that it does. The other way is to use underscore. You can use whichever method you prefer. I'm going to be using camel casing within these videos, and so if you decide that you do want to use camel casing, then you should follow exactly what I write. If you decide that you want to use underscores instead because you find it easier to read, wherever I have a capital letter, just replace it with an underscore and the lowercase letter. Now, the reason why people follow those conventions is simply because it makes the code more readable. So if you were to run into problems and you needed somebody else's help, you sent them the file, they'll be able to read easily what each of your variables are. If you had everything in lowercase, then it's harder to read, and as you can see, although that is a very short and easy sentence, it is a confusing thing to read. It's much easier if it was camel cased or with underscores. So the next thing that we need to cover within variables is if we had a variable, and I'll just call this one number, then to assign a value to it, you have to just do an equal sign and then a number. And then we're just going to do, if we print the number, then that is perfectly fine, and that will work. And if we run this script, you'll see we get the output of 42. If I was to change this to 500, you'll see we get the output of 500. So everything works exactly as you'd expect it to. But a variable is made up of three different things, and that is because in Python it is considered to be an object. Every single type of variable is considered to be an object. So, as is all code within Python, because it's an object-oriented language. You don't really need to know what that means. It just means that everything revolves around a certain way of structuring your code, which I'll get into again later on in these videos. And so what we can do is check what the ID of a variable is. We can check what the value of the variable is, and we can also check what the type of variable is. And the way we do this is we do ID number, and that will allow us. Oh, sorry, we need to print that. And doing that, there you go, you see we get a unique number, and every single variable that we create will have a different number, and this number is it's a sort of an address on your memory or your RAM, and that is just where each one of your variables are stored. And although we don't use this very often, it is useful to know that each variable will be stored in a different place, and that the variable name is just a nicer, more memorable way of writing where each of our numbers or each of our variables are stored. Now you can also get the type, and I'll cover data types in a couple of videos time, but here you can see that we get a class of int. Int stands for integer, and there are several other ones which I'll be covering later on in this course, which all have their own special purposes and their own special meanings. And sometimes if something is the wrong type, then it will cause the code that you have written to not work properly. So it is useful to understand the different types. And so also, when you're looking through your code, if you were to debug it, then to use this type function is quite a useful tool to have. Where it says class there, that just means that it's an object. You can ignore that because we will be covering classes later on, but it's not something you really need to understand at this moment. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in a later video, and I'm Max Bowers from LearnToProgram.tv.